Good afternoon and welcome to MetalCon Live. It's great to have you with us today. I'm Judy Geller, Director of MetalCon, here with Kaylin Burke at the controls. It's hard to believe that MetalCon is finally just 2 months away. As we plan to bring the metal construction industry back together at MetalCon for the first time in 2 years, we want to assure you that the health and safety of our attendees, exhibitors, speakers, sponsors, partners, and staff is and will remain our very top priority. To ensure the health and safety of all MetalCon participants on site, we have implemented very clear health and safety standards, and we invite you to take a look at them at metalcon.com. We do have a great show planned. In addition to over 175 exhibitors, 40 education sessions, we are also introducing the Solar Education Center, the IMP Pavilion featuring the 6 major brands, and Contact, the Construction Technology Pavilion. They are all focused on providing a wealth of new information, inspiration, and ideas to grow your business. Also, mark your calendar for the next MetalCon Live. It's going to take place on August 25th. It's called To Code and Beyond, and it's going to be presented by Amanda Carnes, the Facade Program Manager from Kingspan. But today, we bring you Metal Building Industry, Setting the Bar with AC478, presented by Art Hans, President of the MBCEA and President of Hans Construction, and Jen Heimberger, who's the President-elect of the MBCEA and President of Heimberger Construction. And now just a quick reminder, if you do need technical help during the webinar, reach out to MetalCon support in the chat box, and don't forget to complete the post-webinar survey at the end of today's session. And that's all I have to say today, so I'm going to turn it over to Art and Jen.
Thank you, Judy.
You're welcome.
So we'll get started today. Kaylin, do we have our presentation? There we go. Okay. All right, thank you very much for having us today. We do have a little bit of delay as we start these, so if you'll bear with us while the screens start to change, and we'll jump into this. We're going to talk a little bit about the MBCEA and how AC478 was developed, and then we'll go into details of it, followed by Jen talking about specifics for erectors. I'll cover the background for it with general contractors. Kaylin, for some reason, my screen is not advancing. Okay, I think I've just told you what we're going to do there, so we'll jump right into the next one. The Metal Building Contractor and Erectors Association was formed in 1968. It's a trade organization that provides programs and services to contractors and erectors in the metal building industry. Right now we have over 500 members, and we really cover every aspect of the industry. General contractors who sell and erect metal buildings or possibly just sell them, as well as erectors specializing in metal buildings, and all of the support businesses for that, insulation suppliers, fastener, tool, all the different people that are involved in our industry. We are a membership-driven association, and we're really out there to push professionalism to our members in the metal construction industry. Next slide. Some of the benefits of membership are we are big on our training, so we have access to free toolbox talks, safety guides, all types of documents and templates, which are geared for the metal building industry. Over the last 10 years in particular, we've collected all the best practices from our members, catalog those and enhance them to give you tools that are specific to metal building construction. We provide training both in person and online, again, exclusive to the metal building industry. We have a monthly newsletter and free classified ads. The monthly newsletter keeps you up to date on what's happening in the industry, code changes, and during the pandemic, it was a resource for our members to know how to deal with the pandemic. Our free classifieds allow members to either search for crews that they may need to help them on a particular project, or if they have an available crew and a hole in their schedule, they can put that out there and oftentimes find a project that they can deploy them to. We have an online directory, which allows people in the association and outside to come in and search either by a particular task or by a geographic area. Recognition for our annual Building of the Year awards. And one of the big things that we've been working on, everyone today is fighting to find qualified people for field work. The workforce development initiatives we've been working on provide resources for our members to go out to schools, trade schools, middle schools, high schools, and talk to students about getting into the metal building trades. Excuse me, next slide, please. Okay, the Metal Building Institute Quality and Craftsmanship Series is an 11-module training program. It's got instruction both English and Spanish. It provides national standardized testing free to MBCEA members. This is something that you can go out to a job site, put a laptop on the hood of a truck, and go through training to refresh people, either initial training or refresh them on tasks that you're about to undertake. We provide through the chapters in our annual conference, networking, which really allows you to learn more and more about the industry. We've also had many members team up through this networking to tackle projects that they normally would not be able. And finally, assistance and guidance with accreditation, which we're going to talk about in a minute, AC478, which is the quality standard of our trade. Back about, I guess it was 10 years ago, MBCEA recognized a incompleteness, if you will, in the metal building industry. Too often there were people putting up buildings that weren't really qualified to do it, and there was not any type of certification for people putting up metal buildings. Next one. 2013, the metal building industry constructed more than 300 million square feet, over $2 billion in metal buildings. 90% of it was produced by manufacturers and the Metal Building Manufacturers Association. Back in the day, MBMA members were certified by AISC. When AISC dropped their designation for metal buildings, the MBMA recognized the need to get accreditation for their members. And they developed a program, AC472. The majority of material put out there by these manufacturers, and these manufacturers were now certified and accredited to design and fabricate metal buildings. This material all went out to the job site and was pretty much put up by people who were not in any way certified or accredited to put up metal buildings. We really felt that to push professionalism in our industry, we needed to come up with a similar standard to AC472. Next slide. So we needed a single certifying or accreditation process by which the contractors and erectors of metal building systems could be held accountable. The mission of MBCEA to support the professional advancement of our industry, it made sense that we would be the people to do it. And also we would be the best ones that would help to craft that program. We look to have it independent and have it differentiate contractors and erectors who are committed to safety, training, and education, and that would perform at a higher level. Next. The MBCEA, searched for an entity that we could work with that would give this program some teeth, if you will. There are too many programs out there that people get certified in or be a specified installer of that really just takes a fee to get that certification. Searching around, we found, and looking at AC472 that MBMA had, we found the International Accreditation Service. They are a nonprofit public corporation and really the leading accreditation body in the United States. They supported us and they assigned a crew to work with us in developing the program. And it was developed in concert with the industry so that we were tailoring it to what we do. It's not just structural steel. It's not carpentry. It's not tin knocking. It's specific to doing metal buildings. Next. IAS has worldwide recognition. They are known all over the world. And when people see the accreditation mark from IAS, particularly people like subcode officials and architects, they know that whatever has been accredited has been really put through the rigors. Again, it's a mark that is recognized throughout the world and shows that people have met the discipline of that accreditation process. Next. Okay, we knew that the program needed to be sufficiently meaningful to carry weight at all levels of the industry, from manufacturers all the way through erectors and to the subcode officials and architects that would be specifying it or inspecting to it. We knew that we needed to be evaluated on the quality of our safety and training programs. And to achieve this, accredited entities must show that they have the personnel, the organization, the experience in the industry, the knowledge of putting these buildings up, the quality procedures to show, to make sure that they're doing it properly, and ultimately a commitment to assemble metal building systems in a professional manner. I want to stress, and if you look at the fine print, this program is not about the finished product. It's about the processes for delivering it. So when IAS comes out to inspect or to review our program, they don't inspect the building per se. They inspect how we go about ordering it, delivering it, and building it. Next. Next slide, yeah. Greg Paisley, former president of Butler Manufacturing and chief operating officer of Blue Scope Buildings, said that AC478 is a great complement to AC472. Greg has been key in encouraging the builders, both in Butler and in Barco Pruden, to pursue AC478 accreditation. Next. So AC478 provides a comprehensive standard operating procedures for everything that we do in a metal building system. From our standpoint, as a general contractor, we are a Butler builder. We go a little bit deeper in the process. So we order these buildings, we help specify them. And part of our accreditation process is how we do that, how we order it and how we construct it. And what this does is it gives us rigor in doing the same thing repeatedly. It's an ongoing tool to make sure that our employees have met minimum training requirements for every step of that process. We had a situation where we require, and OSHA requires sign off by a qualified professional to go ahead and erect steel. We had a situation in our company where one of our people thought that they were the qualified individual, even though our policy was that we had the engineer of record do it. IAS came in and during their audit, I'm not sure how, but they picked that one particular job. And it proved that we had an issue there that we had to address. We changed our training program so that now everybody that joins the company is fully trained on the fact that they cannot sign off on that. They need to have the engineer of record do that. So what it did was it made our standard operating procedures stronger through this process. As many of us who are entrepreneurs and have built a business and started out maybe with just yourself or a couple of employees and are now getting larger and larger, It helps us to transition from working day to day in the business to now working on the business, to set up those policies and procedures that may outlive our career with the company. Next. At Hans Construction, we looked at this as a way for us to increase the value of our business. Ultimately, we all look at some type of succession plan, whether it be selling the business, but we see that this has increased our asset of the company as a saleable asset. We've also noticed in our business that the rigor that we've put into dealing with the metal building portion of our project is starting to bleed out into other areas. We get the same certs now for operators of equipment that we do with our Erector. So if another contractor on site is going to be operating equipment, or if the HVAC contractor is going to be doing a crane pick for an HVAC unit, they have to have that same documentation that we require of our Erectors. And it's just made us a safer, more buttoned down company across the board. AC478 definitely reduces downtime for the Erector. The Erector that we work with mostly, they have a checklist that they do on equipment every day. And all you have to do is catch a low tire that would go flat on you in the middle of the day and cost you 4 hours of crew time on a lull, to learn quickly how it can save you time, save you money. Most importantly, though, it makes you a safer, higher quality operation. Next slide. AC478, and Jen will reiterate this during her presentation, it's a tool. Now, for the cost of AC478, you could probably go out to a good dinner once a month, or it's probably less than a round of golf once a month. And people will spend the money on the dinner and the golf, but they'll resist doing something like AC478. The return on investment and the benefits to your company are very tangible. And you need to look at this the same way as you would about increasing your fleet or buying a tool that saves your field staff. The operational efficiency and the quality that you end up with at the end of the process is well worth the investment. Next slide. Partnering AC478 and 472 really sets us apart from any other product in construction. I don't know of another product where you have this very, very stringent process through design, manufacturing, and then ordering and erection of this building. It's all tied into an accredited process. While you have certified installers and there are people that design to certain criteria, that I know of in the industry, there is no other product that goes across the board that has this type and level of accountability. Next slide. Okay, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Jen, and I think I have to, okay, I've already lost control. All right, thank you. Jen? Control.
That would be very unlikely. Are you hearing any reverberation from my?
Nope.
Awesome. All right. So my name is Jennifer Heimberger. We are a general contractor in the St. Louis area. We specialize in pre-engineered metal buildings, and we self-perform all of our own steel erection. So we went through this process. We started it last November when we sent a link to electronically so that IAS could review our documents. We did our on-site assessment in March. So the whole process for this, once you had your documentation together for your training programs, was only about 3 or 4 months. one of the things that attracted me to AC478 is the quality assurance part of this program. So the AC478 process outlines all of the training requirements that you need to include for an accredited safety program and a building assembly program. For me, it took the guesswork out of all of the components needed to train your employees. It outlined the record keeping you needed for each employee, and it provided the matrix for a management system that shows where all of the training components are found. When we started this process, I was under the impression that really we had a pretty good training program. And although we had a lot of components of a quality program, we didn't have all of them. So on this slide, this shows you one of the forms that you get from the IAS and MBCEA also, that tells you all of the components that you need for a metal building assembly training program. So this is the minimum requirement. You can always add more, but it lays it out for you. So you can go through these lists and ask yourself, is this a part of our current training program? Am I able to bring new employees on and show them how to stage material, how to put together primary framing? And if you don't have that, then you just add that component into your training program. The IAS was also big on job site specific plans. I mean, I think all steel erectors know that you're supposed to be doing this, but oftentimes safety and training gets pushed to the back of the bus. You know, you've got work to do, you've got people coming in, everybody wants something now. I think one of the things that I liked most about this process is once you have all of this in place, it's pretty much just following a checklist. It's hard to miss things because they're all right there. So as far as these job site specific plans went, at a minimum, these are what the IAS required for you to have at each job site for each project that you were putting together. Yes, there may be things that you do on here that they've missed, but this is the minimum path. So from material deliveries to your crane picks to a description of steel erection, include, you get into safety, you've got fall protection, hazardous and non-routine tasks. So they also JSAs, the job site assessments and safety tasks for what you're doing during the day. During the IAS process, we created different folders for each one of our employees. And now online, each one of our employees has all of their training certifications. So a list of qualified and competent people, procedures that are used in emergencies, of course, the name of the project and the address. So it doesn't get any easier than following a checklist of what you're supposed to be doing anyway. The focus on safety and training with IAS, they also spell out for new hires. What do you need to do in the first 6 months? What do you have to accomplish within a year? Do you have a driving safety, a fall protection, connectors? Are those components of your current training program, or do they need to be added? The MBCEA helped immensely. They have connector safety, they have controlled decking zone training programs. So a lot of the components that were necessary to fulfill your training requirements, we could find in the member section of the MBCEA website. Field personnel have to have OSHA 10, which is pretty much a minimum requirement anymore. And the MBI Quality and Craftsmanship Training Series are 11 DVDs covering everything from tools of the trade to trims. So tools of the trade, material staging, framing, wall sheeting, roofing. And they give a really good overview if you have employees who are just starting out. IAS provides you with a definition of journey workers. What are the skills that they need to have? It will also tell you how many journey workers you need to have on every job site to fulfill the requirements of a trained field guys. So for us, like Art said before, AC478 is a tool. So we kind of considered the criteria that we got from IAS and MBCEA outlining the components of the programs as an outline. We compared our training to what was in those outlines, found the gaps, filled them in, and then put everything online. So if your company already has a comprehensive safety and training program, then really all you're doing is putting those into a format. You are separating your safety training from your pre-engineered metal building assembly training, and then doing a little management system and a QC manual. So I'm going to share screen right now. Or do a new share. So we use Procore for our project management, just because that's what we use. And because we use Procore for our project management, when we were going through the paperwork requirements for AC478, we decided to create our own AC478 project. And then into that, we put 4 volumes. We have a compliance binder, the safety training binder, QA, QC, and then our pre-engineered metal building training program. So we put all of that information into the AC478 file. We sent a link to the IAS so that they could review it at their leisure, and we didn't have to send them 5 million pieces of paper to go through. You could also put this in Dropbox and share a link. I mean, you don't have to pay to do this, but we just found that transferring these files electronically made a lot more sense. So as you look through what we have in our safety binder, you can put things in there that you'd never put into a manual. So we have a rigor reference manual. That is a bunch of pages, but all of our guys in the field have access to our Procore files. So they can get on here if they're in the field and they have questions and nobody's at the office to help them, they can look up all of this stuff. We also have it arranged separately so we have AC478. We also have a safety file. So the guys can come down here and just look at JSAs, OSHA requirements, the roof safety documents, our Heimberger construction safety plan. If you ever have an OSHA visit, God forbid, all of your information is at the job site and it's accessible for each employee. We did all of our global hazards and posted them onto Procore, since those are supposed to be at each site. So like I said, for us, Procore really worked because we already had it available, but these are things that you could also do with Dropbox or something that doesn't have a cost. So let's go back to the slideshow. All right, so let's see. So when you are going through the process, so your safety training manual, of course, that's the real meat of the program, as is your metal building assembler training. The management system that IAS asks you to provide, MBCEA provides an outline, and you can kind of just go back and fill in the what, when, how, and who for your standard operating procedures. So the goal of the management system is to say what you're doing, and then you've documented it so that they can see if you're doing what you say. I really think that most quality assemblers, people who already have a training program, who have good reputations, who have been in business for a long time, they're already meeting a lot of these standards. They just don't have them documented. And the difference between thinking you have your programs together and knowing you have your programs together was really big for me. IAS also requires an annual review, continuous improvement, and as you go through your year, if you make changes to your safety program or changes to your training program, you'll update your project manuals. There's a cover page where you keep the changes. that you're making, what kind of change, what page it's located on. Makes it easy to find the things you're looking for. So like I said, the initial assessment, we went ahead and applied online with the IAS. We put together all of the paperwork. So we sent them a link to that file and they did an electronic review of the documents. We had a project coming up several months later, so that gave them enough time to review our paperwork. IAS was really good with working on us at coming up with a good time to visit our job site. They like to do it after the steel is up and while you're doing the sheeting. They review your site-specific plan for that job, that you did your JSAs. Erection drawings are stamped for construction, and then they look to see that 50% of your job site personnel are in compliance with the training program, so that if you have new people, they've done their first 6 months. If they've been there for a year, they have OSHA 10 and they've watched the DVDs. 25% of your workforce needs to be a journey worker. You have to have checklists. So we have the general housekeeping checklist, equipment checklist. Like Art was saying, once you start paying attention to this stuff, it saves you money. One of the problems we had had in the past with doing checklists was they were pieces of paper and it required them to remember to have them in their trucks. Then you have to fill them out. Then you have to turn them back in. Then they had to be scanned and uploaded to our files. So we started using a program called iAuditor. So all of our checklists are online. We can change them up however we want to be relevant for each job. And the kids can fill them out on their cell phones. So that helped us get past the checklist hump that we were having. And I had to laugh when Art mentioned the concrete approval part, because yeah, that must be the one thing they ask everybody. So get your engineer of record out there and make sure you've got that on site. So once you get through the first year, you are accredited, then there are annual reviews. So you have a job site assessment every year for the first 3 years. It follows the same process as the initial assessment, and they'll review your documents again. You also are going to have internal audits and management reviews. So after we finish a project, we do an exit interview for the project to see what our issues were. Did we have anything that we needed to? Could we have done better? What are we going to do in the future? And then starting in your 4th year, the electronic review is every year, and job site assessments were every other year. I was impressed with the knowledge of the guy that they sent out to our job site. Walter Mershon at IAS understands pre-engineered metal buildings. He's going to ask you questions, then he expects you to have the answer. So it was kind of like having a little quiz and seeing if you were going to pass. So I feel that there is an intrinsic value to the AC478 process. AC478 creates a foundation for a strong safety program and metal building assembler training program. That makes all of our companies stronger, and that allows us more growth and future expansion. I feel that every erector should go through this policy or go through this process and elevate our industry as a whole. That is one of the key things we are going to be pushing with MBCEA, is to get the qualified erectors into this program and elevate our industry. So like I was saying, MBCEA has they can give a ton of help to get through this process. So anyone who's not a member now should join. They provide the draft management system. They also provide a matrix. Jackie Maluda, who works with MBCEA, is available to help you get through the process and explain any questions that you might have. Our accreditation committee on MBCEA has regular roundtables and user groups from members who have already gone through the process and would be happy to help answer any questions you might have or share information. So that's the end of our program today. I know Kaylin was going to see if we had any questions.
Absolutely. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to go ahead and post those either in the chat box or in the Q&A section of the screen here. I am happy to speak out any of those questions that come through. Do we have any in the audience today?
Kaylin, while we're waiting for those to come in, I'm just going to make a couple of comments. You know, I think that some of us take for granted that people have job site specific plans and all these other things. There are many people that don't. And this is applicable for companies that are trying to build a safety and quality program. This is such a great guideline to do it, to make sure that you don't have holes in your process. And there is some tailoring of the program to your company. And so it's not, while there are guidelines, it's not so rigid that you have to fit into it. The IAS realizes that every company is different, and they do allow some flexibility in how you set your program up to better suit your company.
That's fantastic to hear. So I actually have a question for you, Art, in that case, and Jennifer. The time frame for approval, what does that time frame look like?
I guess for us, we applied in, it was either October or November, gave them a link to all of our paperwork and documents. And then it depends, like we were lucky enough that we had a project starting within a couple months of submitting our paperwork, and they were able to come down. So if you have all of your paperwork ready to go and you have a building coming, it can take 4 months. I mean, we were in November to March, so it was fairly quick.
Great to know. That's perfect. Art, how long did it take for Hans Construction to get their approval?
Well, there's two parts of that. One part is everything you have to do before you submit. And then there's the time frame for the approval. We've had ours for several years now, so it's a little bit hard to remember exactly how long it took. I would say it's probably in that 90-day range, 120-day range. We were not as technologically advanced as Jen was, so we did everything manually at the time. The real time frame required is what it takes you to put everything together. And we've had people go through this in probably 4 months is the quickest. Jen, how long did it take you?
4.
Yeah, Jen was an overachiever.
I
think that we probably worked on ours for the better part of a year. And I have to admit that we had some gaps that had to be filled to be able to meet the criteria. And it took us a little bit longer to dial it all in.
Okay. Perfect. That's great to know. Do we have any questions from the audience? So I'm not seeing any coming through. Apparently you guys covered this topic incredibly well, and we appreciate that. I'll give it another minute. If we don't hear anything else, then I will close this out for the day. Really appreciate both of you coming to speak with us today. It was fantastic to have all of your insight and to understand the science and the need behind the AC478 program. So we so appreciate it. And just in case anyone who's listening on here doesn't already know, both Art and Jennifer will be speaking at MetalCon on this topic, along with a few other speakers, and they will be presenting this course along with AC472 as well. So it'll be a nice joint presentation with the MBCEA and the MBMA. We are very excited to see that. They will be discussing how those two programs work really well together and how they really enhance your company's presentation to the world. So we still don't have any open questions right now, so I will end this here today. Art, Jen, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you everybody for watching today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Look forward to seeing you at MetalCon.
Yes, we do.
We will see you then. Have a great day, everybody. We will see you soon.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.